Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi has postponed a press briefing scheduled for this afternoon. No reasons have been communicated yet behind the postponement. Ziniko Mhlaba joins us live from Pretoria. Ziniko, what could be at play here considering that the province will also fall under the GNU?
Good afternoon, Hugo, and that's a very, very important question we are all asking ourselves. Remember that, the Premier Panyaza Lesufi was re-elected into that position last Friday, and of course it was expected that he will announce his cabinet during the week. As we are today, we're expecting him to finally give us details in terms of who will be making up that MEC executive. We all know that it's going to be happening under difficult and different circumstances compared to his previous term, where the ANC was enjoying full and majority support as far as the electorate were concerned. However, things are a bit different now, so that cabinet will have to be made up of members from the Democratic Alliance, from the Inkatha Freedom Party, to name but a few. But you understand that according to media reports, especially morning papers, they reported that there is some impulse and stalemate between the two bulls in that kraal, and I'm talking about the African National Congress and the Democratic Alliance in terms of MEC position allocation. But, we thought maybe when that announcement or that communication which announced that the announcement will be this afternoon at 2 o'clock, actually an hour before the time of that announcement, we were told as journalists that actually that announcement has been postponed. We do not know why exactly or what are the circumstances or when it has been postponed to. But to answer that question you asked me, I'm joined now by Professor Dirk Kotzé from Unisa, also a political analyst. Prof, looking at what's happening here in Gauteng and also what has been happening at the national level between the Democratic Alliance and the ANC, most importantly, what do you think is at play here? Because a time was set and the province was ready to hear who will be leading the province in terms of the executive, but that's no longer happening. What is happening here from your understanding and your insight in the political realm?
Well, I think what is happening specifically in Gauteng is that it is very much linked to the national negotiations. And because that hasn't been concluded, they are now waiting to see in which direction that is going. The parties are obviously not the same, as you mentioned. It's only the bigger parties that are involved in the Gauteng one. But specifically the relationship between the ANC and the DA, and what the main party leaders negotiated or talked about Friday here in Pretoria, President Ramaphosa, John Steenhuisen, and President of the IFP. And it seems like they haven't really made a final conclusion about that, because some new parties are actually joining the national government of national unity. So I think once there's more stability in that respect, then it will become possible to really conclude the situation in Gauteng. So the two processes or the two negotiations are actually very much linked, which is different from KwaZulu-Natal. Because there it was so finely balanced that the ANC had to move as quickly as possible to get the NFP in. And that the MK-EFF couldn't convince them to join them. So in that sense, it was a different process than the one in Gauteng.
I've been looking at what happened in KZN in terms of how these parties agreed timely on positions or the executive in terms of its make. We saw the DA taking Treasury, also taking Public Works. One would think maybe they will use that model to deal with Gauteng, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So what sets these two provinces apart in terms of their dynamics and what could be at stake and what could be at play?
Well, here in Gauteng, the ANC is in a stronger position than the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. MK does not have that prominence here in Gauteng, while in KwaZulu-Natal we know they were actually the biggest, or are the biggest party. The fact that the NFP there was the kingmaker, here in Gauteng it won't be the case. So I think in those respects it differed quite substantially. In the case of, for example, Gauteng, the DA is much stronger, is the second biggest party. In KwaZulu-Natal, not the case. So therefore, the dynamics about which parties can come together in order to establish this coalition are quite different in the two provinces.
Thank you very much, Prof, for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's Professor Dirk Kotzé there, just giving us his insights on what could we play in terms of what is happening here in Gauteng province. A week later, we still do not have, the executive. We don't know who will be taking up which portfolio, but we know that, as far as the political parties which are expected to make that executive, we're talking about the DA, ANC, also the IFP, or however, also have some parties such as the UDM, Al-Jama joining the fray as far as the government of national unity. So we don't know whether those new entrants into the GNU have anything to do with what's happening here in the province.